My name is Misako. I am 36 years old and a mother to a 10-year-old son. His name is Hiroto. He is my world, the greatest joy of my life. I cannot imagine my life without him. I have always dreamed that one day my son would grow up to be a respectable man, someone who would live a much happier life than I ever did. But sometimes, life crushes our dreams and pushes us onto paths filled with nothing but pain and struggle. I grew up in a small village. My parents were poor but hardworking. Since childhood, I had experienced the harsh realities of poverty. My father worked in the fields, and my mother cleaned houses to provide food for us. I loved studying, but we didn't have enough money for me to continue my education. When I turned 18, I was married off to a man who lived in the city. His name was Takeshi. After marriage, I thought my life would change for the better. But a few years later, I realized that my husband had no sense of responsibility. He spent his days wandering with his friends, drinking alcohol. When I became pregnant, I hoped he would change, but things only got worse. When Hiroto was born, Takeshi became even more heartless. One day, when Hiroto was just 4 years old, Takeshi left. No letter, no phone call. He just disappeared and never returned. That day, I realized I was completely alone. From that moment, my life became a battle. My son was my responsibility, and I could never let him go hungry. But I had no college degree, no stable job. I started doing small jobs to survive. I would wake up early, send Hiroto to school, and then work as a hotel cleaner. In the afternoon, I worked as a waitress in a cafe. At night, I washed dishes at a small roadside stall. Despite the exhaustion, when I came home and saw my son sleeping peacefully, all my pain would vanish. Many times, when I had no money, I would go to bed hungry, but I always made sure Hiroto had something to eat. I never let him feel how poor we were. One day, Hiroto came home from school, unusually quiet. I asked, "What happened, son?" He softly said, "Mom, everyone at school has new clothes, nice shoes, but I have nothing. They laugh at me." Hearing his words, my heart broke. I knew he always tried to hide his needs, but today, I could see the sadness in his eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I decided that no matter what, I would give my son a better life. But how? For the next few days, I worked even harder, but my earnings were too little to change our situation. Then one day, I overheard people talking about selling their blood for money. At first, I thought it was too dangerous. But then I remembered my son's sad eyes, his old clothes, and without thinking twice, I went to the hospital. When I reached the hospital, I met a man who was buying blood. I asked, "If I sell my blood, how much will I get?" He said, 12,000 yen. A strange feeling ran through my heart. I knew it would weaken my body, but my son's happiness mattered more than my pain. I sold my blood. When I walked out of the hospital, my legs felt weak and darkness clouded my vision, but I had money in my hands, and that was all that mattered. I used the money to buy Hiroto new clothes, good shoes, and paid his school fees. When he saw that he finally had a bag and shoes like his friends, his happiness knew no bounds. He hugged me and said, "Mom, you are the best." That day, I realized that a mother's love can take her to any extent for her child. But this story doesn't end here. A few weeks later, while returning home late at night, I felt a sharp pain in my head and collapsed on the street. Someone took me to the hospital. When I woke up, the doctor told me, "You are extremely weak. Your body lacks enough blood. If you sell your blood again, your life will be in danger." Tears streamed down my face. I thought, if I die, what will happen to my son? And then, something miraculous happened. At the hospital, salary was much higher than before. I quit my small jobs and moved into a new apartment. Now, my son could study in a good school and wear nice clothes. Today, years later, Hiroto has grown up. Whenever he asks me, "Mom, how did you do so much for me?" I just smile and say, "When a mother loves her child, she can endure any pain, because a mother